Follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/achieveradio.
Welcome, everybody, live with Dr. Carolyn Dean here on achieveradio.com. I'm Ginny Gunther, also known as Ginny Almighty, and I will be your host for this next 2 hours, along with the very gracious, the very dynamic, the most wonderful Dr. Carolyn Dean, returning for another State of the Union address. That's right. Every week we come in and we share with you the possibilities of what can actually occur for you if you choose to live in the light. No, I'm just kidding. If you really do choose, though, to take power over your own health. We have testimonials day in and day out of people who decide that they want to live in a natural, holistic way. They want to take responsibility for their health. They want to make good choices, and they want to fortify themselves at a cellular level with the wisdom, the direction, and the support that Dr. Dean offers through her radio shows, her books, her products, and also her own very special, very no-nonsense brand of wisdom for the body. We're so happy to have you here with us this evening, and we welcome people from all over the world, and I'm always amazed when I hear that our program's listened to in Czechoslovakia, and we've got people in the Czech Republic. We have people listening now in Norway. We have people all over Germany who are tuning in. We have people, of course, always in Australia and English-speaking countries, but in Taiwan. Our reputation has grown so dramatically that we even have people from countries that's not necessarily easy for them to understand everything we're saying, but they just want to be in the flow. They want to be in the vibe. They want to be in the experience of the joy and the palpable confidence that we have that the formulas that Dr. Dean has created, along with the protocols that she has written, combined with some basic strategies and some good choices with diet and movement, are going to set you on a path of wellness that you may not have even known was possible for you. So we welcome you this evening. Again, Dr. Dean is a doctor. She's a naturopath. She's an MD. She's a herbalist. She's an acupuncturist. Really, she's invested in all this, and yet she doesn't look like she's been doing it for 50 years. I can tell you that much. But she's invested so much of her own life in really vetting all these things out so she could drill it down to something very simple for you. That's what we're here to talk to you about tonight. But let me also just say that she's not here to give you medical advice. She's here to just say, hey, you know what, if I were you, this is what I would do. But you have to make your own choice because it's all about empowerment and taking responsibility for your own health. We also welcome all of our regular listeners to the show this evening. To sit back, grab your Remag water, and tune in to the vibrant, powerful words of Dr. Carolyn Dean this evening. I'm sure she's got some great information for you and all of our callers and listeners. So welcome back, Dr. Carolyn Dean. Oh, where did they go? Wait a minute, they're here. There they are.
Yeah, Ginny, you know I can't possibly talk unless I hear the kids say yay. Then I know that it's real, that we're in a situation where we can choose to live in the light. I like that. I know you kind of tossed it off and joked about it, but we are going to talk about how magnesium lights up your brain, because it really does.
Very good.
Yes, and Ginny's blog this week is called Magnesium, How It Protects Your Brain, and that you can find at drcarolyndeanlive.com, and that's where we have our radio show archives and Ginny's weekly blogs, and as she says, a lot of it is clips from Magnesium Miracle or things that I've written over the years, and Ginny never tells me what she's going to put on the weekly blog, but it's interesting, Ginny, because just a few days ago I met one of the people that lives in the area where we live, and we met at the pool, and I hadn't seen her for about 6 months, and she was kind of limping around, and I said, "What's going on?" And she said, "Well, I've been diagnosed with MS." And I never intervene when I meet people. I never tell them, especially on the first conversation about the products or anything, but I really felt motivated to do that with this woman, talk about magnesium. I just got a box of Magnesium Miracle books, and I went up to the house and brought one down for her. So we'll see what happens there, because MS, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, senility, all the brain diseases can benefit from magnesium in so many different ways. And it's not a, quote, drug that's going to treat these conditions. It's going to increase the amount of magnesium in your cells and tissues so that if your neurology is responding to magnesium deficiency, then you can be rest assured that you're not suffering a magnesium deficiency symptoms of nerve problems. I know that's kind of a roundabout way of trying to make sure we're not dinged for saying magnesium can treat these serious diseases. What we are always saying is, if your symptoms are magnesium deficiency, by taking magnesium, you will counteract the magnesium deficiency and therefore not potentially be diagnosed with a disease. So I'll start off Ginny's blog with some extra words. We're going to go through some excerpts from the book, but let me just remind you that the brain is electromagnetic, like the heart, and we measure the electrical activity of the heart with the EKGs, with the brain with EEGs, so we wouldn't be able to measure them if the brain and the heart weren't electrical, and they're electrical because of electrolytes. And the most important electrolyte, which everybody forgets, is magnesium. So magnesium makes muscles and nerves work properly. The magnesium allows calcium to cause muscle contraction or nerve firing by allowing some calcium into the cells. The muscle contraction or the nerve firing occurs, and then magnesium pushes the calcium out of the cells to allow the relaxation phase. But if there's not enough magnesium to get rid of the calcium, the cell can be excited to death. Brain trauma of any kind will cause a release of calcium in the traumatized cells. It'll cause too much calcium to flood into the cells, and if there isn't enough magnesium to pull the calcium out of the cells, there's cell death. Those cells die, the calcium builds up, enters other cells, and causes them to be excited to death. It's like a domino effect. However, studies of animal and human brain trauma victims suggest that higher magnesium levels are associated with a better recovery, and also giving sufficient magnesium will create a better healing outcome. Intravenous magnesium sulfate significantly reduces brain edema following brain injury and is used to treat patients with severe traumatic brain injury without adverse effects. This is crucial information to give your doctor if your child or a relative suffers a head injury and, for whatever, a fall, motor vehicle accident. They really need that magnesium to protect the brain. The quotes that Ginny pulled, there's stroke, we did mention brain trauma, diuretics, how they affect the brain, aging, memory, fear, and treating telomeres in the aging spectrum, Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. We could also talk about anxiety, insomnia, and depression. So with stroke, the U.S. population deficient in magnesium, I've said for many years, it's about 80% of the population is deficient. So the U.S. population is at greater risk for stroke with severe post-stroke complications. There can be poor recovery from head injury and escalating neurological damage. Lack of magnesium can enhance neurotoxin damage from vast numbers of chemicals in the air, food, and water. Brain trauma. I've already said the notes on the brain trauma. I also say that good neurosurgeons give IV magnesium to all their surgical patients. There's a case study about diuretics drying out the brain, an elderly woman with very low serum magnesium levels and severe weakness, overt psychosis, paranoid delusions. Following large IV doses of magnesium, her symptoms disappeared. However, they returned when she was given the diuretic back. So if you know anyone who's on a diuretic, they should be on at least 600 milligrams of supplemental magnesium a day. And, of course, we would recommend Remag because it's so well absorbed. Aging. Dr. Pierre Delbet, who practiced in the early 1900s, was convinced that the aging body's tissues have 3 times more calcium than magnesium. He knew that calcium precipitates out into tissues that are deficient in magnesium. He observed the toxicity of excess calcium in the testicles, brain, and other tissues, and concluded almost a century ago that magnesium deficiency plays a role in senility. How are we avoiding using this information 100 years later? Memory. Research at MIT produced a study in 2004 that elevates magnesium to the position of memory enhancer. Particular brain receptors important for learning and memory depend on magnesium for their regulation. Researchers describe magnesium as absolutely necessary for the cerebrospinal fluid in order to keep learning and memory receptors alive. The term they use for this activity, interactivity, and changeability is plasticity. I've blogged up many times about brain plasticity and magnesium. Fear. MIT researchers found that, as predicted by our theory, increasing the concentration of magnesium and reducing the background level of noise led to the largest increases of plasticity ever reported in scientific literature. In English, that statement simply means that magnesium reduces the physical reaction to fear, which can only be a good thing. Treating telomeres, yes, magnesium is necessary to keep our chromosomes intact. When they start fraying at the ends, that corresponds with aging. With Alzheimer's and Parkinson's, there's evidence that magnesium deficiency can trigger or worsen Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. These conditions are the neurological equivalent of heart disease. After all, both heart and brain are excitable tissues that give off electrical energy, and both must have magnesium. As I said, we could include a lot of references to anxiety, insomnia, and depression. What you should do is get the Kindle version of the Magnesium Miracle book so you can search any condition that you want and come up with information. You can also take this book to your doctors. Hopefully they won't start a war against me for showing them up, but you could take my book to them. Or if it's mainly a neurological condition that you're interested in educating them about, print out a free online book from the University of Adelaide. It's called Magnesium in the Central Nervous System. It's a 2011 book, but it's still current enough. And that's the blog. What we have in our mailbag, a couple of things. There's one here I want to address. We didn't talk about migraines. Yes, that's sort of a brain issue, and we know that magnesium is very important for the treatment of migraines. Now, this customer says, I've been on Remag, Remite, and Realign for 8 months now to get rid of my once-a-month migraines. I'm up to 2 teaspoons of Remag, and my RBC is now 5.2 instead of 3.7 when I started in March. I'm still getting my 3-day migraines. How long before I might see some relief? Now, I don't know how long this woman has been on the 2 teaspoons, but that's only 600 milligrams. As I say quite often, I had to take 4 teaspoons for my heart palpitations and leg cramps. Now, she says she can get the laxative effect with more, so that's where you go to Remag lotion, and slathering yourself with a couple of teaspoons of Remag lotion will get your levels up. And we didn't have time to get any more features of her story, how old she is, what other stressors, what else is she taking? Is she taking high-dose vitamin D? Is she taking calcium? What is her magnesium burn rate, et cetera, et cetera. So, and are there any shifts in the migraines? Usually people do have some relief even on 1 teaspoon a day of Remag. But if magnesium deficiency has been decades long, it is going to take longer. But we want to hear more from this customer so that we can help fine-tune. Ginny, before I go to the blog that you wanted me to talk about today, have you pulled any more questions from the mailbag? I know I usually do it because you're busy with chat and all the rest of it, but are there any mailbag questions specific to our topic?
Not from the blog post we did, no.
Okay, good. So we'll take more questions, certainly, if people mailbag in after the show. We'll answer them. Customer service or myself will answer them. Ginny said she really liked the latest blog that I sent out. It's called Homeopathy Deniers. And let me just bring that up. Just to remind myself what I did say. It is, yes. A customer who knows that I support homeopathy recently asked if I was aware of Americans for Homeopathy Choice. She said they're a group of consumers, mostly mothers, who have gotten the FDA's attention. My customer said, quote, they are actively working to defend our right to choose homeopathy if that is what we think is best for ourselves and our families. She wanted me to become involved and, quote, team up in our efforts to protect people's right to choose the healing options that are best for them. She said, quote, if the FDA takes away our right or greatly restricts our ability to use homeopathy, which they're proposing to do, I'm not sure what they will target next. So I went to the website, and I link it here on the blog, which you can always find my blogs at drcarolyndean.com. Homeopathy Choice has a petition there presenting to Congress, and public comments are being submitted to the FDA to stop the attack on homeopathy. When I went to the Choice website, an article called Homeopathic Remedies to Help with Anxiety popped up. So I immediately thought homeopathic remedies do help anxiety, but such a headline is part of what is maybe getting homeopathy into trouble, because the FDA will only allow drugs to be, quote, advertised as treating disease, and they won't allow the use of the word cure ever. I know this because the FDA came after our company, me and my company, for simply having testimonials on the RNA Reset website quoting people who said our products helped cure their disease. So there goes the First Amendment, folks, which is freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of assembly, freedom of the press, and right to petition. The position that the FDA enthusiastically and ruthlessly enforces is that only drugs can treat disease. And if you say a homeopathic remedy can treat disease, then that remedy is defined as a drug and has to undergo a billion-dollar drug trial. I don't know how that ruling got to be an enforceable law, but the FDA can shut down a dietary supplement company for saying their product treats a disease. So we don't have the freedom of speech to say that something other than a drug can be helpful to a person with a disease. Even if that disease is a magnesium deficiency, they don't care. The FDA would rather have doctors treat a magnesium deficiency with a drug than with magnesium. I go on to say it doesn't matter that millions of people have been helped with homeopathy, semicolon, that there are no side effects, semicolon, that they are safe to use in infants and children, period. What does matter is that homeopathic remedies are dirt cheap and they keep people from using over-the-counter drugs or even prescribed drugs, which cuts into drug company profit, period. End of story. The government will listen to homeopathy choice because they have to listen to citizens, but they will ultimately side with the drug companies. The government and drug companies have an agenda that will be followed, and it's not the will of the people. I know all this firsthand. I lobbied Washington for a couple of years with the health freedom movement and saw up close the apathy and cynicism of senators and congressmen. We were told outright that the government could never support alternative health care because the pharmaceutical companies threatened to leave the U.S., taking all their manufacturing plants and money elsewhere. Well, they did that anyway, and it's only counter threats issued by a fearless President Trump that can make the drug companies come back to the U.S. and lower drug prices. But even he is probably not going to, quote, allow. I lost my place here. Yep. Even he is probably not going to allow alternative medicine to coexist with allopathic medicine. It's up to you to do it for yourselves and your friends and family. It keeps bouncing away. From my experience, I know you cannot win the larger battles, so don't lose your energy and help beating your head up against a brick wall. I was silenced early in my career. After I spoke some sober truths about sugar on a national Canadian TV show, I was admonished publicly by my licensing board. The board then infiltrated my office with a spy who complained that I've refused to give him a homeopathic remedy for his allergies. So this is where homeopathy sort of twigs with me all the time, because here's this guy who turns out to be an absolute plant and a spy. I see him. He demands a remedy for his allergies. I say, no, you have to be tested. So instead of me testing him and then giving him a remedy about which he could complain that instead of giving him a drug, I gave him a remedy, he complained that I refused to give him a homeopathic remedy on his first visit. So they were obviously out to get me. And actually, the thing about it is, no, I won't go into that. But anyway, there was something else that happened where I had to throw myself under the bus because he had seen a colleague of mine, a young doctor who's in my practice, and instead of deferring to her, I knew they were after me, so I just went in front of the firing squad. But anyway, the complaint never went anywhere until 6 years later when I no longer had a Canadian license because I was doing AIDS research in New York. Without my knowledge or presence, my non-existent license was removed and I was denounced publicly. This was likely done as a warning to others who wished to attack Big Sugar and not follow the standard practice of medicine, which is drugs and surgery. This attack effectively kept me out of mainstream media so I could not spread my message, and allows everybody, even alternative medicine critics, to vilify alternative medicine critics to vilify my work. There are many unbelievable details to the story, which you can read on my website, Unfounded Attack on Carolyn Dean, MD, by Licensing Board. Homeopathy is an alternative. Magnesium is an alternative. Anything that's not drugs and surgery is an alternative. You can read more in my Death by Modern Medicine for the reasons why I stay low-key and do the best I can to help people stay healthy. And that's what I recommend. Stay low-key, use your energy and resources to stay healthy. If you do have some energy left over to protest, write letters, sign petitions, do that, but not at the expense of your health and sanity. When it comes to homeopathy, if remedies are going to be taken away from us, I recommend people obtain instruments to make their own homeopathic remedies. You can do that. I got my machine from the UK many years ago, but I noticed there are several companies in the U.S. selling machines that can make homeopathic remedies. I think that's the answer to the current crisis. Research the best machine, call up the company, ask questions. Don't ask me. I don't know any of these new companies. Then get together with friends and family and purchase a machine and the special cards that go into the machine to make a remedy. They're not that expensive, really. You can make remedies in small dropper bottles in advance and store them or make them as needed. So in that, I said, when I used to make remedies for each flu epidemic that came along, I'd categorize the symptoms, match it to a remedy, make the remedy in my machine, and they always worked. But I did have to end up by saying I don't really use a lot of homeopathic remedies, hardly any except arnica, because I do really find that using my complement formulas keeps my body in such a balanced state that I don't develop symptoms. When I did get a sore throat after a plane ride a few months ago, 6 teaspoons of pico silver was all my immune system required. So I said all the words to that blog because it is pretty important. A doctor wrote in, wow, this was eye-opening. She said, I have such a passion for helping people by treating the root cause, not of the issue and not with drugs, but have been afraid to be too public or out there with my opinions for exactly the same reasons and fears that I would come under attack as you have in the past. I love receiving your emails and your spunky attitude when it comes to our medical system. It helps me to have more confidence in my message as well. So I had a little correspondence with this doctor, and I said, well, root cause in my world is magnesium and mineral deficiencies and yeast overgrowth. And I told her she should get on board with giving her patients my remedies. And she said, I've always thought the root of the root of the root was adrenal dysfunction, but I can see how mineral deficiencies would contribute to this. But then what about stress? I think I would be interested in trying some of your products. I take magnesium daily, and I do know your thoughts about magnesium. I will check out your website. So I answered her. I said, the adrenals, yes. When you say the root cause is the adrenals, well, what causes the adrenals to fail? And I said they need sodium, and I recommend sea salted drinking water. They need vitamin C. I recommend food-based C. And they need magnesium, and I recommend Remag. And I told her to go to Dr. Carolyn Dean Live and download my free ebooks. I cover adrenal fatigue and invisible minerals part 2 and it's on page 2 of my book list. Another doctor wrote in and said, yes, I basically burned my license when my board used these types of tactics against me. she told what her specialty was, and she was bringing a new modality into her therapy, and she said she was attacked. She said, I thought going to med school, she thought medical school would make her independent to speak her own mind about how to help people, but of course it didn't. And I think this is important to the topic, and I do want to make sure I get to it today before I go back to Ginny and all our chats and phone calls. This person says, I'm currently on a nutritional balancing program where I have a hair analysis done every 3 to 4 months. It was determined that I have low calcium, magnesium, sodium, and potassium. I've been put on a high-dose calcium, 2,000 milligrams, magnesium, 1,200 milligrams, zinc, manganese, and potassium. The last couple of months I have continually felt worse with fatigue, aches, pains, worse sleep, and anxiety. After reading and listening to many of your YouTubes and articles online, I personally think I am on way too much calcium. I stopped all the supplements on my own and have been taking Remag, magnesium oil, magnesium citrate, magnesium lactate the last few days. Should I start the Remite right away or fill up my magnesium levels first? As far as the Remite, is it a one-size-fits-all, meaning don't some people need more of one mineral than others? So what we know about calcium is that it should be in balance with magnesium. I consider calcium in the diet is probably enough for most people. So these very unfortunate hair mineral analysis, nutritional balancing programs are way off the mark. When you get high amounts of calcium in your hair, that means the body's trying to get rid of it. When you get low calcium in your hair, it can be the same thing. This is what's so crazy about hair mineral analysis. If you have too much calcium in the body, it will deposit in soft tissues, and it may or may not deposit in the hair. You really have no way of knowing. But anybody who reads anything I've written about magnesium and calcium should know that 2,000 milligrams of calcium is not healthy. What will happen is only 4% of that calcium is going to be absorbed into the cells where it's needed, and the rest is going to precipitate into soft tissues. And if you don't have enough magnesium, that calcium is not even going to go into the bones properly. So we're going to tell this person, and hopefully she's listening, that yes, no magnesium, no calcium in supplemental form until the body can get rid of it. Taking enough magnesium will help dissolve the magnesium and divert it to your bones and teeth. The magnesium you're taking, it is best to try to get it all with the Remag so that you won't get the laxative effect from non-Remag magnesiums. The magnesium oil externally, that will help. When that's used up, get our Remag lotion. And personally, I was taking first angstrom magnesium, which is very low concentration of magnesium, and then a year and a half of Remag, or maybe it was about a year of Remag before I even thought of taking a calcium supplement when I wasn't eating dairy. Now that I'm eating dairy regularly with my heavy whipping cream and cheese, I don't even take my Recalcia. About the Remite, yes, if you're going to be taking high dose magnesium, it's good to take the Remite right away to get the balance of the other minerals. One size fits all. It is absolutely one size fits all. I've been studying minerals for decades, and what I created was just the right balance to sort of meet the requirements of what people are faced with out there, which includes there's too much copper, so I have low-dose copper. You still need copper, ionized copper in the cells for many, many things, including balancing your iron. You can Google my name and copper or read the Remite booklet for more on that. So, too much calcium, big problem. A lot of nutritionists who are taking online courses now, they get involved with hair analysis and think they have answers for people. But then we hear about this horror of people being put on high-dose calcium, which, in this customer's words, gave her worse fatigue, worse aches and pains, worse sleep, and worse anxiety. So we know over and over again that calcium supplements are to be avoided, and please read more about that in my Remite Recalcia book at drcarolyndeanlive.com. Click on books, and it's on page 2 of the book list. Phew. Okay, Ginny, over to you. Have I fulfilled my mandate of getting lots of words out there?
Yes, you have. No, great content, great information, and I know a lot of people, I thought it was just brilliant suggesting people get their own homeopathy machine. And, of course, you did talk about how you don't really need it as much with the complement formulas, and I agree, because what we used to do even, 6-7 years ago, what we do now is totally different. I mean, totally different. And you don't even need as much of the formulas and things. But, yeah, very, very good.
And food, Ginny, you don't need that much food. I mean, I'm slightly scaring myself because I don't eat all day now, and then I'll just eat dinner and save room for my berries and heavy whipping cream. But I'm seriously just eating one meal a day and feeling just fine. Maybe that'll shift, but I think the nutrients are definitely making my body feel that I am nourished. Certainly I'm taking the RNA drops, which will do that, and all the minerals and my Realign, and I just have maybe 4 ounces of a Restructure smoothie that I make Bob every second day. So do you find that the food just builds up in your refrigerator and you're not eating much of it?
Well, actually, it's funny that you said that, because I got a great testimonial from our good friend Roger, who's been around for a long, long time. Roger's been on the formulas for years. But he sent me an email and said, quick update, I've lost 140 pounds doing keto and intermittent fasting like Dr. Dean recommended. So he says he takes 2 teaspoons of Remag, a teaspoon of Remite, the Realign, and the sea salt in this water, and he does the Pico Silver 1 teaspoon daily, a week on and a week off. And he started out using the Restructure as a meal substitute, and he really only eats 1 meal a day. He eats in a 2-hour window. He's not hungry. He's very satisfied. He's cut out the sugar. He's got rid of the carbs. He doesn't do any snacks. I mean, and he just absolutely feels amazing, and his body's just chomping away all day on its own fat stores. And he said people have a hard time believing me when I tell them I don't get hungry. And this is a guy who used to crave dessert after every meal, including breakfast. So, I think you're right, Carolyn. You just don't feel as hungry, and it's kind of like, I got to think about, you're just kind of like trained to think mealtime, time to eat. But really, when you get into this, and our warehouse manager, James, has lost a lot of weight intermittent fasting. He's not hungry either. You just don't have the hunger.
Right, and I still every day I will do a tablespoon of bentonite liquid and a teaspoon of very fine psyllium seed, and I mix that with a half a teaspoon of lemon juice. And actually, I put my Remite into that just to sort of kill the taste. I don't know. I think it's still being absorbed because, my hands and feet are still warm, so my thyroid's still happy. So I'll use that after I do my 2-hour walk in the morning. Actually, no, I'll just drink water for a while, and then maybe around 11 or 12, I'll have my bentonite and psyllium, and that makes my stomach feel like there's something in it, even though I'm not doing it for hunger. I'm just doing it because I know if I'm only eating for a few hours a day, the rest of the time my body is detoxing, and I want to make sure I kind of sop up those toxins that might be hanging out in my intestines. And I will still do my coffee enemas. I probably do too many coffee enemas when I'm doing this type of fasting, but I love my coffee enemas. So, yes, it is an ongoing experiment, and I'm not saying I'm going to eat like this forever, but I'm certainly enjoying it right now. Another thing that I wanted to comment on, it's sort of along the lines of people getting bad advice from practitioners. We had an email from a new customer, and here's what I said in the middle of looking through her Tier 2 response to our questions so I could know a little more. I said to her, I ran out of energy and focus here trying to figure out why you're taking 40 different dietary supplements, adding up to 100 pills per day. That alone will alter your gut and put too many directives into your body at one time. And then I further commented, and down below I read her, wrote out a long email, and this is how we do address this problem of people on all these pills. I said most of our customers start out with expressing symptoms of total body meltdown. You've listed your symptoms and showed extremely low magnesium levels in your blood test. This is what you should focus on, getting enough magnesium in your body to saturate your cells. As your test showed, you were getting up there but weren't taking enough to overcome your magnesium deficiency symptoms. And then she started reducing her magnesium for some reason. Yes, she said she was having some laxative effects, but she was on 3 other magnesiums besides Remag. And I said it's best to wean off the other mags because they're only about maximum 20% absorbed. Magnesium deficiency is implicated in insomnia, anxiety, worsening memory and focus, and leg cramps. So those were her symptoms. And I said what I've learned over the 50 years that I've been reading and studying natural medicine is that most people with chronic complaints have mineral deficiencies, especially magnesium, and yeast overgrowth. I said, but I think the main problem right now is that you're taking too many supplements. The binders and fillers alone in this massive amount of pills and powders can cause gut irritation and fill up your gut so that you don't have an appetite for your food. What I often end up saying to people is that if you've been on 100 pills a day and in your case still have insomnia, anxiety, worsening memory, and focus, and leg cramps, are they really helping you? And then you're cutting back on the Remag, which is the main thing that can help solve your problems. I took 3 to 4 teaspoons a day for a year and a half to get myself saturated to, quote, cure my heart palpitations and leg cramps. Go to my blog, Dr. Dean Supplement Recommendations, and read why I think you only need a handful of supplements and not a horde. Unfortunately, natural medicine doctors prescribe and recommend too many supplements, matching up symptoms with pills, just like allopathic doctors use drugs. I call them green allopaths. Read my free ebooks, listen to my radio show, and see the logic of replacing building blocks, not just treating symptoms. And I signed off with some support saying, keep us posted, let us know what you think about this. But that, Ginny, isn't that what you and customer service are finding, that people just end up taking so many supplements, just desperate to get some relief?
Yeah, it is. It's really unfortunate, and I'll tell you something that I found a lot too recently is this whole big frenzy about CBD oil. And I've been reading about how it's being made and how little actual CBD oil is contained in the media itself, and how really, truly that a lot of the medical case studies that have been shown to be effective with CBD oil have been highly concentrated doses in a very intense, controlled environment. And so you're looking at, like something where, like, for example, like, say, an inflammatory situation. And the reason I'm really chasing this information is because I'm shocked at how many people will be more inclined, they'll run after the CBD stuff, maybe because they think it's sexy or something, and they're ignoring the obvious benefits of magnesium supplementation, which benefits more than just, an inflammatory condition. I mean, it's a body-wide cellular impact, and CBD oil is not anywhere close to that. So, yes, there are still a lot of people who are very confused. They're going after the shiny. And even in the cases like, for example, we got a question for you, Carolyn. Dave in Denver typed in, I have heard a lot about the Linus Pauling vitamin C diet that is claimed to reduce coronary artery disease as well as many other claimed benefits at a much higher dose of several grams a day. Why the contradiction with the studies you are quoting? So I don't know what
studies do I quote.
Yeah, I don't know what studies you quote, but I think that this is a perfect example of vitamin C does have its place in the body, and it does have its place in the function at a cellular level. But if Linus Pauling would have read the Magnesium Miracle, just like we have this happen practically every single month when Dr. Sinatra came on just a couple of weeks ago, and he was like, oh, wow, didn't know that, didn't know that, didn't know that, didn't know that. It's the constant education that this magnesium requires to let other doctors know so that they can modify their protocols as well.
Right. There's so much like internet information where people will read words that are kind of being sold to them and get all hyped up, and then it's good that they ask us the question, because I've been at this for 50 years, so I know where all the bodies are buried. And what I do know is when I was asked to speak at the Riordan Clinic annual, is that what they call themselves, Riordan Clinic?
Yes.
It's an Riordan Clinic, Functional Integrative Medicine. They're very big on high-dose IV vitamin C, and they've had lots of success with it. High-dose vitamin C is ascorbic acid. It is, quote, drug-like in the sense it's very high dose, and it will shift things in the body. I'm actually on the medical board, the board of the orthomolecular medical journal. I think it's, what is it? Orthomolecular medicine. We put out press releases. And it has a special name. I'm trying to remember what I'm doing there. Orthomolecular, Andrew Saul.
Oh, yeah, Dr. Saul, you write for his, he does a journal, a monthly journal, and distills all kinds of information that pertain to orthomolecular medicine, and you write for that, and then you can subscribe to it and receive those updates.
Right. Well, what it is specifically, OMNS stands for Orthomolecular Medicine News Service. I've just written about magnesium for them, but there are many, many, many people on the board, and doctors will write information, and actually sometimes when I don't agree with what's being written, I'll ask for my name to be taken off. And I've said to them, what about food-based vitamin C? It can't be just high dose ascorbic acid, but some studies show how beneficial it is, and yes, the high-dose vitamin C ascorbic acid can flush out your intestines. It can act like a detox. It can pull out heavy metals, but it also presumably can pull out minerals. So I just go for balance. The only high dose that I want people to take is magnesium. And yes, that does cause a laxative effect when you take too much, but you don't use it for its laxative effect. When you're taking Remag, when you get saturated, yes, you will start to get the laxative effect, and then you cut back. You don't keep doing it. Anyway, when I spoke a couple of years ago by Skype at the Riordan Clinic's annual meeting, and I learned in my back and forth with them that they're very interested in high-dose magnesium. They use our Remag, and they are wondering, a couple of them who are big on IV ascorbic acid, they're wondering if actually magnesium in the form that we use it, our Remag, is a better antioxidant than ascorbic acid. Certainly it can do much, much more. So I'm not going to promote high-dose ascorbic acid when I know you can get the antioxidant effects that ascorbic acid has, plus 700 different effects. Why would I advise something that is not the best? So, there's many more layers to all this, but that's my answer to whoever it was that chatted in about this ascorbic acid business.
Very good. Okay, let's do a couple more questions from the chat line as well. Are you up for that?
Okay, sure. Oh, but okay. I wanted to say, in the midst of that, in my multitasking, I've been reading a new book called Mad Politics, Gina Loudon. It's a good book, and one of the things that she talks about is marijuana, how it's being used to, she's saying, to promote apathy in the population, and I really do think that's a possibility. But what she did put together was the research about the side effects of marijuana. And, cannabis has become so well known as a nutrient of some sort in popular culture and media that it seems we have conveniently forgotten the destructive nature of pot smoking. Cannabis and Health International Drug Policy Symposium studied the adverse effects of smoking pot on the human body, compiling research over 2 decades and across Europe and beyond. They found that 1 in 10 persons who smoke marijuana becomes dependent. Driving while high on pot doubles the risk of crashing a vehicle. Teens who smoke are 200% more likely to drop out of school. Cannabis use as a teen significantly increases cognitive impairment. Those who smoke pot have 2 times the risk of developing mental illness such as schizophrenia, depression, bipolar, psychosis, etc. These numbers are even more severe when there is some family history of drug use and if they start smoking during adolescence. Marijuana smokers are more likely to develop chronic bronchitis, more likely to use it as a gateway drug, profound effect on developing cardiovascular disease. Other studies, one marijuana cigarette is equal to smoking 20 cigarettes, and the concentration of carbon monoxide and carcinogenic pathogens is much higher in pot smokers. Cancer rates are upward of 5 times higher in those who smoke pot. And I don't know. I mean, maybe these studies are, quote, cherry-picked, but I just know that there aren't enough studies being done on pot. What she says, because she is a conservative, she says, Soros has modeled his pro-pot ad campaign after the tobacco ad campaigns of the 1960s. It's modern, it's hip, it's healthy and sexy. It will make you feel better and relax. It could even cure you of what ails you. And this is very frightening.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, top of the hour, live with Dr. Carolyn Dean. We'll be back with our next hour right after this brief break. Grab some Remag water, and we'll be right back with you.
You can also get updates and resources online by visiting drcarolyndean.com.
Psychic radio, holistic radio, spiritual radio. This is achieveradio.com. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/achieveradio.
You can climb floors and then worlds show up. You can go downstairs and worlds disappear. You can go downstairs up on the rooftop and you open the door and take a step and you go, I'm on the rooftop. Wait a minute, I better pay attention. So that becomes a fun thing. So that's why we have to come back and say this, relax and allow, soften it up, get your foot off the gas, don't slam on the brakes, just let it coast where you want it to go. Soften, be easy about all this, and stop making a great big huge thing out of great big nothingnesses, because the nothingnesses are serving you very well. You like this blissful place of not caring, because now you care so much about everything that you've got yourself in a position where you don't really care about anything. Good. It's wonderful. Thank you. We are happily, easily ready for more and more in your experience.
AchieveRadio.com. Here we go now.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Hour 2, live with Dr. Carolyn Dean here on AchieveRadio.com. So happy that you're here with us. We are so grateful for our regular audience. And one of the people, Carolyn, that has, I think, been listening probably since the very first day we ever did the radio show back in, 2011, is our dear friend Nancy up in Portland. And she had a couple comments to the topics that we were previously discussing. So I want to run through those real quick, and then we can press on with our important agenda, if that's all right with you.
Okay, I'm here.
Okay. So one thing Nancy says is, she says regarding our topic earlier of feeling less hungry and eating less food because the nutrients are so satisfying to our bodies. She said, I agree, Carolyn, less food is what I have found along the journey of better nourishment and self-care as well. Seems to keep my body maintained well. I feel I do intermittent fasting most every day from the last eating in the evening until I feel like food the next day. Could be 12 hours, sometimes a bit more. It can vary now and then, but stays very similar most of the time. This is without intention most of the time, just the way it feels right for me now. And she also commented on the last conversation we were talking about pot and CBD oil. She said, I've been listening the past few days to Regain Your Brain Summit, and Dr. Daniel Amen's interview was awesome. On his knowledge of the brain, he explained how CBD oils are not helpful to what he sees in brain scans. It was impacting when you hear all the interest type for this product. He is a psychiatrist and brain imaging expert. You may know his work or his name. Are you familiar with him, Carolyn?
No, I'm not. Give me the spelling. I want to be familiar.
Okay, it's Dr. Daniel Amen, like Amen, A-M-E-N.
Oh, yes,
and it's
yes. Of course, yeah, I know him.
Okay, you do. Very good. All right. Excellent. So thanks, Nancy, for that. So people who are interested in investigating that can do that, Regain Your Brain Summit. I think you did the Regain Your Brain Summit last year, Carolyn, but I think this year you said you weren't going to do summits as much, so you probably didn't participate when they invited you. But I think you were in last year's program, right?
Well, gosh, you know, Ginny, the past number of years I did 75 summits, so I have no idea, really.
It sounds familiar to me. I think you did do it. Okay, Belinda is typing in. Dr. Dean, please share how often you took a teaspoon of silver when you took the 6 teaspoons for your sore throat. Have you taken it over a period of days for another type of imbalance, or was it 6 teaspoons over several hours on one day type of a thing? That's what she's wanting to know.
Right. Well, what I did is I felt the sore throat when I get up in the morning, so I just started right then, and I took 1 full teaspoon, and maybe it was like every hour and a half I took another teaspoon, so that by the time I went to bed, I had 6 teaspoons under my belt. And then the next day I woke up in the morning, no sore throat, nothing. But then I thought, well, I should continue it. But I just did maybe 4 teaspoons that day, and then 3 the next, and then 2. And really, I've been doing 2 teaspoons a day since then. And something I said in the beginning, and I haven't really repeated it, was around that time I was having this really weird itchiness on my side, low back, maybe around T 10, 11, 12, but more out around my rib area. I would just scratch it away, and I didn't know what it was. And that went away. And I wonder, I've never had shingles before, but it just hit me one day that, maybe it was incipient shingles, or like a mild case of shingles from all the wonderful stress that I've been under. And actually, Belinda, so that's what I've been doing. I'm still on 2 because I have yeast overgrowth history. And, maybe I'll go to 1 teaspoon very shortly, but then when I travel to visit with Ginny again, I'll probably go up to 2 a day for boosting my immune system for travel. And I have a mail bag that happened right up here on my screen just after putting down Belinda's name. Someone says, I ordered Pico Silver for a friend with shingles. She gets the most relief from the Pico Silver in a spray bottle. She also takes 1 teaspoon of Pico each day. She couldn't take the prescribed antiviral from the doctor as it caused her blood pressure to drop. Her shingles have stopped spreading and are less red. Some are ready to break and heal. She has had shingles for 1 week and has been using Pico Silver for 5 days. She had a weakened immune system from her hip surgery, a virus around the same time, and prior treatments with steroids and methotrexate. The Pico Silver is working. So I said, fantastic. I would personally take at least 3 teaspoons a day orally, as well as spraying it on to really knock out a shingles attack. So isn't that fantastic? I mean, shingles, that's a hugely painful disease. So that's nice to
Yeah, it's a hugely painful disease with no relief whatsoever. Now, is that the second shingles testimonial we've gotten?
Well, my little one, and then that's the first one I know of. I'm sure you've gotten more.
Yes, I think we've gotten more, because I remember very distinctly this one that we got where the person definitely had shingles, and they used it topically and orally, and it went away. And I thought that was incredible.
Right,
yeah,
right.
Very good.
Yeah, I'm looking up Dr. Amen's book. It looks like I have not downloaded it yet, but he's got the same sort of feedback on Amazon, customer reviews, where some people, he's got 62% 5-star, 18% 4-star, but then the 1- and 2-star people are saying that, well, he's just trying to sell supplements, poor guy, like we are. We're just trying to help people. We're just trying to keep people's bodies alive and well. Yeah, I don't know what. I'd like to have a good quippy answer for people who said, oh, you're just trying to sell something or you're too commercial. It's like we live in a capitalist society. People make things and sell things. I mean, what's the problem?
Well, I know it's absurd. There are people who feel that they're, entitled. It's just like spirituality or whatever, that they're entitled to have everything at no charge. And this just leads people who cook up their own magnesium by buying magnesium flakes and mixing it with battery acid and bicarbonate stuff and everything and then they can't, there's no control over the quality of what they're creating, and they're making, themselves sick, and they're recommending to other people. It's fine. It just, people are silly. Okay, now let me ask you this.
Yes.
Dave in Denver types in, this is cute. He says, my message about vitamin C was actually for the doctor on the last show, but thanks for a very good commentary on the subject. I do have a question for Dr. Dean, though. Is it wise to use the Pico Silver daily as a preventative? It worked wonderfully for me in clearing up a dental abscess, and I was thinking about using it daily as a preventative.
At first, I didn't think so, and I put that on the label just to use when you want to boost your immune system. But the more I read about it, especially, Dave, you could read the Silver Report that's on our Dr. Carolyn Dean Live under books. It's the first thing that pops up. And many people are saying that it can be used daily. So I leave it up to a person's judgment. It's almost like we have daily toxins that we're subjected to. So to me, that's why I use bentonite and psyllium every day. So do we have daily organisms that are trying to coerce us into being sick? Yes, I think we do. We're hearing more and more about the trillions of organisms in our body that some of which are out to get us. So perhaps the Pico Silver can be used. Randall, was it Randall using it 1 week on, 1 week off? I'd like the sound of that. Use more if you feel your body needs more support. So we'll take comments and questions about the use of Pico Silver as people develop their own N=1 clinical trial.
Right. Excellent. Yes. Roger was saying 1 week on, 1 week off. I think that's really common, Roger, really common for a lot of people, 1 week on, 1 week off. I think it's a fantastic preventative. That's what I do with it. I think, so far, everybody's just thrilled with the results they get with the Pico Silver for sure.
Right. And I know Bob, he kind of amused us all in the beginning, saying, my bowel movements don't stink. And seriously, mine don't either. It is quite interesting how that has happened. And I know they talk about the anaerobic bacteria having incredible toxins. I mean, there's I'm looking it up now, and I might have talked about this before. There's a toxin called cadaverine, a foul-smelling compound produced by the putrefaction of animal tissue. So supposedly if you eat animal protein, you'll get this cadaverine. And the other one is putrescine, a foul-smelling organic chemical related to cadaverine, both produced by the breakdown of amino acids in living and dead organisms, and both are toxic in large doses. So are we, okay, now produced by the breakdown, what happens there is you're eating your food. Your food is broken down by your enzymes, your hydrochloric acid, etc. If it's not completely broken down, it goes into large intestines, and bacteria will get after it. And then it's the bacteria that are producing these chemical compounds in the intestines. So is the body breaking down these compounds better? There's so much, quote, research that we could be doing on this, but
Carolyn,
yeah, Bob.
Your smell is slightly detectable. You're not as pure as me.
Oh.
Oh, my Lord, Bob. That is too much information for the radio. Goodness
Mute
gracious.
yourself, Bob. Okay, Ginny, over to you.
Oh, Lord. Okay. Nancy types in and says, the other thing that she said, it makes me laugh to think about the number of summits you have done. I could not keep informed enough to check into all of them, but I wish I would have been able to hear more of them because the information is basically the same but forms to the subject person you were interviewing with. I like a variety of a person in different settings as it gives more familiarity to the personality, you in this case. I thought you also, Dr. Carolyn, know Dr. Amen. His work is fascinating and so useful for many to make positive changes for the brain. He knows his nutrition and so much more as well. So we'll see if we can't find that and post that. Okay. And Betsy said, thank goodness you sell Remag and Remite since our food and soil is depleted. And that is so true. Somebody has to do the heavy lifting around this place.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we shall press on. First, we haven't even put out the call for to talk with you, Carolyn. 602-666-6027 is the number to call into the show if you'd like to talk to Dr. Dean tonight. And if you've already called, excuse me for being so wayward and not making the announcement that we do take phone callers from our audience, and we'd be happy to talk to you. Of course, Dr. Dean would be happy to talk to you. So again, 602-666-6027. If you're on the line now and you want to talk to Dr. Dean, you've got to hit *5 on your keypad. *5 will raise your hand on the computer and let us know that you're here. You've got a comment or a question for Dr. Dean, and then we will put you on the phone with her. If you don't hit *5 on the keypad, your phone will remain muted, and we won't know that you have anything to say. So that's what you've got to do, is kind of give us that little alert. And right now, nobody has raised their hand yet, Carolyn. So let's press on with our other things that we've got to do, and we'll circle back and see who's here to talk to you.
Right. I just went to my emails, and Melody Rose sent this in a couple minutes ago. And this gentleman is saying, I've read that iodine is also very important for the brain, particularly for preventing plaque forming halides, Halides, from accumulating in the brain and pineal gland. Can you comment on this? Yes, iodine is very important for the brain and the whole body. Iodine actually stimulates the white blood cells to attack foreign organisms. It's the basis of peroxides that help the immune system, and most people just think of it for the thyroid, and that's why we have iodine in our Remite. And also, I'm writing a blog right now again on
Carolyn.
The something like Port James. He writes the Salt Fix, and I was reminded that as we move to sea salt, he calls it natural salt, as we move to sea salt from table salt, we have to remember that the one good thing about table salt was it did have some iodine in it. They would fortify it with iodine, and if you're not doing table salt, you're not getting iodine, so you really should be doing your Remite. And by doing the Remite in the dose I recommend, it's just what it ends up being twice the RDA. Let's look that up. Ingredients, Remite. And then I'm using in here iodine, 75 micrograms, and 3/4 teaspoon serving, and you take that twice a day. And the RDA for iodine is 150 micrograms. Of course, there's this huge quote fad to do high dose iodine. I do not recommend that. It got a lot of push because it was used for treating breast cancer. Not everybody, heaven forbid, has breast cancer, so it's not like we all need to be taking it, but if you just take it regularly every day, you keep your body built up, you keep it working properly in the right amounts to make your thyroid hormones. If you're taking grams and grams of iodine, you push everything out of kilter. You start your thyroid hormone with the iodine, and then you create downstream products that then need a ton of selenium. And yes, we do have selenium in Remite, but it's in the correct amount to work with the correct amount of iodine. So everything is balanced in the body, and when someone gives a medicinal amount of a nutrient, a vitamin or a mineral or an amino acid, they really throw things out of balance. And this is what we're proving day by day with our formulas, is if they're taken in these low doses in ionized, stabilized ionized form, they're 100% absorbed, and they work properly in the cells where they're supposed to be working. So anyway, I'm sounding a little bit pedantic here, so I'll go back to Ginny. Ginny!
Very good, very good. Okay. Follow-up comment from Belinda. She said, thank you. I've been using the Pico Silver 3 times a day for the last 60 days. The red tide here in Sarasota has been very difficult to deal with this summer. So much so that 2 minutes outside makes my face itch. My sore throat, stuffed sinuses, and blotchy face have dramatically improved since taking the silver. That is a very good.
Wow.
Wonderful.
Tell me, say those words again. Let me get them down.
About the red tide in Sarasota, you know what that is, right, Carolyn?
Yeah, but let's discuss it more. This is absolutely vital information. So read what Belinda says again, and then we'll talk about it.
I have been using the Pico Silver 3 times a day for the last 60 days. The red tide here in Sarasota has been very difficult to deal with this summer, so much so that 2 minutes outside makes my face itch. My sore throat, stuffed sinuses, and blotchy face have dramatically improved since taking the silver.
Wow. So the immune system is trying to fight whatever toxins are being created by this red algae, which obviously has become airborne. It dries up on the beach, I guess, and just blows around. 2 minutes outside. So sore throat, stuffed sinuses. So as the mucous membranes of the throat, being in contact with the air, breathing through the sinuses, the mucous membranes are being irritated, blotchy face, direct contact on the skin. Wow. So the immune system is very stressed out with all this happening, and by taking the Pico Silver, the immune system is able to deal with a large part of this. That's incredible.
Hey, remember I was telling you Dennis Michael Lynch, the blogger, was down in Florida, and he was complaining about the red algae, and he was out there for 15, 20 minutes, and he started to itch. And he said, I got to get off this beach.
Right. Wow.
Yeah, it's very, very bad down there, and a lot of corruption about dealing with it. But if you got him interested in it, he could tell all his fans about it.
No, we don't. We don't do that type of outreach, Bob. You know.
Yes, I was just being polite.
Okay, thank you. Okay, bye.
Bye. Bye, everybody.
Imagine Bob being polite, Ginny. Is that even possible?
I'm very polite. Ginny knows. That's what attracted Ginny to this whole scene, is how polite I was years ago.
Oh, okay. Okay, bye.
Yeah. Are you here? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really incredible, very incredible, because this is one of the important aspects of our products is the protection against the environmental challenges that we're facing. And Red Tide is a perfect example. You know, everything from, computer constant assault, everything, food, air, everything is bombarding the immune system and challenging the body, and yet people are being able to prevail a lot in part because of our products, and also being able to be getting that absorption at a cellular level, and that's what the Pico Silver is doing, and I just think it's extraordinary, Belinda. So thank you so much for sharing that. That's absolutely awesome.
Okay, so here's something else that inspires. Just think of what the Carolinas are still going through. It's going to be a fungal time as the houses try to dry out. There's going to be mold and fungus, and people are going to have to be very careful about their immune systems in with regard to that. Everybody needs to be on a yeast-free diet, be on the Pico Silver. It's going to be bad.
I agree. It's you're never going to really. It's never going to dry out. How's that going to exactly happen? There is going to be damp, mold, fungusy kind of stuff going on, and there's all kinds of environmental challenges already. It's, yeah. Yep. Okay, let's go to the phones and have a chitty chat with some of our wonderful callers this evening. Are you ready for some phone calls, Carolyn?
I am.
Okay, and again, reminder, 602-666-6027 is the number to call. Be happy to talk to you this evening. Hit *5 on your keypad to raise your hand and let us know you've got a question or comment for Dr. Dean. And right now we'll go to great state of Michigan, area code 248. You're on the line with Dr. Dean. If you could give us your name and then state your question or comment.
Denise. And my question has to deal with atrial fibrillation. I really am interested in trying your products because I've heard a number of people say that it helped, because mine has been going on for like 24/7 for about at least 6 months. And I really would like to try your product and see how it works because I don't really want to do a cardioversion or ablation, and I'm nervous about that stuff.
You say for 6 months. Do you mind me asking, Denise, how old are you?
57.
And in terms of how you've read about our work with magnesium and the other minerals, can you say why you developed magnesium deficiency that might have been causing your symptoms?
Eating habits were horrible. That's when it started to come on with horrible eating habits, and that's what it really started with. And then, diabetes developed, high blood pressure developed, stress and obesity, all of those things. And so I was wanting to do right, and I just happened to come across someone told me about you, and I said, okay, let me try that because I'm in the process of being on a good, healthy diet now. The blood sugar has come down a whole lot. The blood pressure has come down, but I don't want to continue to be on these beta blockers and this blood thinners. I just hate that, so I just want to do whatever I can do. And, I'm starting a walking program, but I have to do it slow because I get out of breath very easily.
Yeah, everything can be low and slow. That's what we say about our minerals even. And if I could say, it's kind of an example of how AFib can develop in people, Denise, where you have one set of symptoms like the diabetes, and then I find that when people go on diabetes medications, then they might develop the high blood pressure, and then they go on high blood pressure medications, and then they develop the heart symptoms, or it can go the other way. It can start with blood pressure, but what we find and what you'll read when you start reading more of my material is that when you get symptoms that may be related to, like you say, bad eating habits, which means you're not getting your nutrients, you're not getting enough minerals and B vitamins, for example, to support your body, then you'll develop these nutrient deficient symptoms, but then they're misdiagnosed as diseases for which you're giving drugs which take away more of your nutrients. It's a terrible vicious cycle.
Oh, yes.
But we're here to support you. We have a lot of good information, and it's very sweet of you to call into the show and talk to me. That's cool, because a lot of people, they're kind of scared off. They don't like talking on the phone, but hopefully you can be inspired that a lot of people do get better. And I love the way you said you're already improving, but one thing we remind people is don't get off your meds until your blood pressure is back to normal, or your blood sugar is back to normal. Just wean off slowly, hopefully with your doctor's support, because if you try to do it too fast, then it's just not good to have a drug withdrawal at the same time as you're trying to feel better.
Right. She's already taken me off of one for the diabetes.
Oh, good.
I've gotten down to more like a pre-diabetes kind of A1C now, so.
Yeah.
But I just don't want, I hate blood thinners. I'm sorry. I felt like it was taking my hair out, thinning it out a whole lot, and the beta blockers, and then plus I'm on the thyroid as well, so it just.
A lot of people are on thyroid medications, and this is where you may have heard me talking to Betsy about Remite. That's our other mineral, but the magnesium is important, but the other minerals are important as well. Get our AFib book, Denise. There's a free book on AFib that I've written. It's at the drcarolyndeanlive.com website. And then when you go through that, be sure to ask customer service any questions. If they can't answer them, they'll put the email on to me, okay?
Oh, well, great. I will do that.
Okay.
Denise, you have sinned, and you will be relieved.
Yes, thank you.
No.
Thank you, and God bless you guys.
Thank
God
you.
bless. Thanks, Denise. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
That is not a good comment, Bob.
Well, the way people, they say I was eating bad food, and bad diet for 40 years, and now I realize, and they've sinned.
Well, they've sinned, but not relieved. There must be a better word.
There isn't.
Sinned and have been
forgiven.
Forgiven.
Saved. Ginny's the expert. Saved. Yes, you've been saved. You will be saved, Ginny. I mean, Denise.
Bye, Bob. Okay, over to you, Ginny. Good call.
Okay, very good, very good. Okay, EJ just typed in and asked, I know you will believe that Remag would be good for a condition called drop foot. Do you have any testimonials in regard to this? I have read that it can be caused by paralysis of the anterior muscles of the leg on the affected side. Thank you.
Drop foot. Have you heard testimonials on that, Ginny?
I think we have had one recently, and actually I think it was something that was typed on the radio show because I looked in our archives and I don't have anything in our customer service testimonials, but it might have come in through the radio show. So, and I don't know what the circumstances were, how long they used it, and what other things were at play.
Right. Yeah, and it can be so variable. Definition from the Mayo Clinic. Drop foot caused by weakness or paralysis of the muscles involved in lifting the front part of the foot. Causes of foot drop may include nerve injury. The most common is compression of a nerve in your leg that controls the muscles involved in lifting the foot. And, I mean, for that type of thing, people with edema, for example, with leg swelling, that can put pressure on the nerve, or muscle spasms can put pressure on the nerve. So for those two reasons, magnesium is going to be helpful. I mean, we don't just blanket say magnesium is good for everything, and we can drill it down and define it for you, EJ. But the bottom line is people just try it and see if it helps them. What I would be doing is definitely rubbing Remag lotion in the whole lower leg and foot, as well as taking it orally. And if you can find a massage therapist or a chiropractor who does myofascial massage, myofascial release, sometimes the fascia around these muscles is scarred and can put pressure on the nerves and cause foot pain, ultimately a type of foot drop. So everybody's different, so do your own experiment. Over to you, Jen.
Very good. Excellent, excellent. All right. Live with Dr. Carolyn Dean here, ladies and gentlemen. And if you do have a question or comment for Dr. Dean, you've got to call the studio, 602-666-6027. And then also raise your hand by hitting *5 on the keypad to let us know you have a question or comment. And right now, we can go back to our chat line. Belinda just ordered a case of Pico Silver, so she's excited.
Bless your heart, Belinda.
Yes, God bless you. Who knows how long that crazy red tide's going to take. And then Jean typed in very enthusiastically for Denise, our last caller. I'm so excited for you, Jean says. Trust that you will feel better very soon after you start taking the complement formulas. Get it all, get the total body reset, and don't forget the Pico Silver. So very encouragement from Jean there. Okay, so let's see. What would we like to do? We've never gotten around to reviewing some of the blogs you've written, and we've got mailbag things coming in, yes, perhaps?
Oh, yes. Yes, lots of mailbag from over the month that we're away. I'll do a couple and then maybe get to a couple blogs. So this is our pilot friend, Jenny. I'm sure you know him. I won't name him, but he probably wouldn't mind. But he says, I love Dr. Dean and her entire team of professionals. I especially love and trust her advice and products to produce the healthiest body and mind on the planet. I am a commercial pilot recovering from a bicycle accident causing a concussion and have now achieved perfect scores on, he's talking about various tests. I wonder if I mentioned this last week. It sounds familiar. But anyway, I follow Dr. Dean's protocol of supplements and credit my cognitive recovery in large part from making sure my body has all necessary bioavailable nutrients along with daily exercise, meditation, and disciplined cognitive training provided by my brain doctor. I am more composed and cognitively confident at 65 years old than I was as a young man. My speeds verified by an FAA doctor on a certain test, respectively, are at the low end of even the youngest pilots in the age 20 to 30 bracket. So I thought that was cool. And I think we've talked about his recovery before. He's given several testimonials. Remag lotion testimonial. Please give Dr. Dean feedback that the Remag lotion is definitely working. I did all the right stuff and used Remag for over a year, and there was only a little improvement, whereas the lotion is working. I cover my legs and arms first thing in the morning and before going to bed. I'm getting less and less premature atrial contractions. I'm beginning to be able to sleep at night. Prior, I had to sleep sitting up, and then sometimes I'd try the bed and wake up with PAC, premature atrial contractions. They'd get so bad they'd make me ill. I haven't had a double, it's called Bigemini episode, a double thumping, for a very long time now. I used to get those regularly. So that's interesting. I mean, thank goodness this person persevered and as she said, didn't feel she was absorbing the liquid right now. Oh, I see. She went to the Remag liquid spray and felt that the lotion was working better. Of course, yes. And it would, because it's designed for transdermal, and I don't know why the liquid itself wouldn't work. Anyway, blogs. I mean, there's so many blogs. Well, maybe I'll just list the different blogs and see if I can remember what I said about them. The most recent one, breast calcification and coronary artery disease. Now, what I do with a lot of these blogs is I'll take what they're saying about correspondences between diseases. So they're saying, I think they want to keep promoting mammographies. So they're saying, well, we can get more information out of mammographies. We can find out if the coronary arteries are calcified when we're seeing breast calcification. And so they're saying they're associated. Breast calcification, coronary artery disease. So what do we learn from that in terms of magnesium? Well, when your tissues are having calcium deposits build up in the breast tissue and or the coronary arteries, then yes, that can lead to coronary artery disease. So they're trying to say, do a mammogram. If you see breast tissue calcification, it may be related to coronary artery disease. And then what are they going to do? They're not going to tell people to take magnesium to help dissolve the calcium, which is what you could do. They're just going to be on to the next study that does some sort of associative data collection, like a previous blog, and these are all at drcarolyndean.com, bones deteriorate in diabetes. And yes, why wouldn't they? Because associated with diabetes is low levels of magnesium, and what makes bones stronger is magnesium, so they are going to go together. So they'll keep ignoring the fact that magnesium is a common denominator and just make people scared of their bones and their diabetes. Now, I have one called Let's Prevent Heart Disease. Now, what the heck was I saying there? So I'm going to type in Let's Prevent Heart Disease and Dr. Carolyn Dean, and my blog comes up, and I'm saying It seems a reasonable statement. Let's not wait until you have full-blown heart disease requiring a half dozen drugs. Let's keep your heart healthy and prevent heart disease. But in a Medscape article, quote, do cardiologists care about CV, cardiovascular disease prevention, unquote, Dr. Watson-Shirley says that apparently they do not. Her comments arose out of the European Society of Cardiology session, Implementation of Cardiovascular Disease Prevention in Daily Practice. The doctor said that unarguable data reveal that most cardiologists, do not offer our patients what will ultimately save them from a heart attack, stroke, heart failure, and death. Prevention strategies. So nobody's doing prevention. The presentations prove that we are running our patients in and out of clinics but not engaging them. Another doctor at the session commented that we are not really focusing on what's important. Yes, we need emergency care, but the follow-up is horrible. So they go on, hitting themselves upside the head for not helping their patients do prevention. But where are they going to learn that? I mean, we didn't learn anything about preventing these problems. All doctors do is run risk analysis and then put people on preventive drugs. And then the drugs cause more magnesium deficiency. They're focusing on prevention. Here's one thing. Tucker reviewed data from as early as 1993 showing that having diabetes, in addition to 1, 2, or 3 risk factors, including dyslipidemia, that cholesterol, systolic blood pressure over 120. 120 is normal for peace sakes, and a risk factor of smoking increases your risk for death significantly. It's these studies that allow doctors to immediately begin prescribing to prevent high blood sugar, which is a magnesium deficiency, high blood pressure, which is a magnesium deficiency, or elevated lipids, which is a magnesium deficiency. This seemed to be the focus of the whole conference. How soon can we begin prescribing meds to prevent heart disease? And, yeah, I mean, you know what I'm saying about all this. It is pretty stunning to realize that doctors don't have a clue about what they're doing. Previous one, the brain can change before. While I'm looking that one up, Ginny, any calls or chats that you'd like me to do?
We are holding steady. Let's see. I just want to make sure that our recent callers who've called in know that you've got to hit *5 on your keypad if you want to talk with Dr. Dean. That's 602-666-6027. And then you've got to hit *5 on your keypad, because right now I have all kinds of callers and nobody waving their hand, which sometimes makes me nervous, makes me think that they don't know how to do it. So let's go down to Florida and see how we're doing here. Area code 407, you're on the line with Dr. Carolyn Dean. If you could give us your name and then state your question or comment.
Hi, is this me?
It's you.
It's you, yes.
Hi, this is Andrea Browning. Dr. Carolyn, I love your products. I'm over the moon with these products. I do have a question. I want to do the Remite, but I had a thyroid removed back about 20 years ago. And right now I'm just taking a thyroid herbal supplement. And I'm wondering if the Remite would be better.
Well, the Remite is going to be helpful for many things, all the hormones. It does support the immune system. It's got 12 minerals, so it does a lot. We do tend to talk about it in terms of thyroid because it has the 9 minerals that the thyroid requires, but not having a thyroid isn't going to make any difference in taking the Remite. What you may find is if there is any thyroid tissue left in your throat, that in your neck.
There is. I just had the right side removed.
Oh, okay. Yes, so it's going to support your thyroid, and what you'll do is after a few months have a thyroid blood test and see if you're producing more thyroid hormones. That's all.
All right, and plus I would feel the difference, correct?
Yes, plus you would feel the difference. I know when I started my Remite, it was about 6 weeks, and I realized that my temperature was going back to normal. Hands and feet were warmer. I was a little bit hyper, and so I took myself off my Armour thyroid. So yes, you'll know the difference.
All right, great. Well, then the next time I order, I'm presently waiting for your product to come on a reorder, and I will start on the Remite and keep you posted.
Oh yes, please do that. Thank you. You have a very sweet voice. Are you a sweet person?
Thank you. Oh, absolutely. I'm 68 and loving it.
Oh, good for you. Good for you. Yes. The older we get, the better we get, and the younger we feel. That's our motto.
Well, I've been reading labels since the 70s after I read the book Sugar Blues. We have no sugar in this house unless it's organic. And my kids grew up without the sugars. So, yes, I'm very mindful of what goes in.
Very good. Okay, thank you so much for calling in.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. How great would that be to not have had sugar for the last 40 years? Good Lord.
Oh, I know.
Like you.
Yeah.
I know. Very good. Okay, excellent. So let's see, how are we doing with our chat? I think we can press on.
Okay, the next blog then, this is called The Brain Can Change. So I did a brain blog, and this is what I wrote. I recently read Dr. Norman Doidge's books, and Doidge is spelled D-O-I-D-G-E. The books are The Brain That Changes Itself and The Brain's Way of Healing. I wanted to help a friend research brain exercises to add to the completement formulas for his child who has been identified as a slow learner. They are great books that provide lots of hope, but I was pretty disappointed that there is no mention of magnesium. It saddens me that the neuroscientists avoid nutrients, especially when magnesium is the most important brain plasticity agent of all time. The old adage is true that the scientist rigorously defends his right to be ignorant of almost everything except his specialty. Even worse, these are pioneering research who Doidge writes about, who often had to fight the status quo in their own field to come up with remarkable breakthroughs. You would think they would be open-minded, but unfortunately they limit their open-mindedness to their own field. The same happens in every medical specialty. I constantly talk about modern medicine and its animosity to alternative medicine and nutrition. As a consequence, millions of people suffer for lack of choice in healthcare, even though the research is there to prove that nutrients like magnesium do work. So then I have a quote from my Magnesium Miracle 2017 about memory and magnesium, and I talk about a book that I looked up while I was reading Doidge's books called The Alzheimer's Solution, a book by doctors at Loma Linda that promotes nutrition and lifestyle for the prevention and treatment of Alzheimer's. But I scanned the book and there was no mention of magnesium at all. The list goes on about the various medical specialties that ignore magnesium, and here I am sitting on a non-laxative magnesium that I feel could change everything. So I just end up by saying I encourage you to read Doidge's books because they prove that we can heal, rewire, and reclaim damaged brains. But if you implement some of these brain techniques, don't forget to take Remag, which can probably double the effectiveness. So that was an important blog. And there's a crazy Medscape article that I commented on. It says, can exercise worsen dementia? So not only are they going after nutrients, but now they're going after exercise, saying, well, maybe it's not good for dementia. And when I read the paper and, really gave it a few seconds thought, I saw that what they did was recommend high-intensity exercise, which meant people were sweating, which to my mind means, well, 80% of the population is already magnesium deficient. They're making these people sweat. They're draining their magnesium even worse. So, yes, they're going to worsen their dementia. So these headlines just meant to shock people are just so disingenuous. The blog before that, 99% of doctors need help in making a diagnosis. Now, this is really scary. This is what's happened to modern medicine. Let me see exactly how I phrase this one. And one that below it that came up in my search is doctor's attention span is 11 seconds. Okay, 99% of doctors need help in making a diagnosis. Here is the lead sentence in Medscape's article. Medical errors have become the lead sentence is about 99% need diagnostic help. And then I quote this, so maybe they say it as well. Medical errors have become an accepted, if unfortunate, part of medical care, but physicians may greatly underestimate how much they contribute to the problem. This statement implies that medical errors are part and parcel of medicine. There's nothing that's going to change that. A medical informatics specialist. So they've got a medical informatics specialist, but they don't have nutrition as a specialty in medicine. How crazy is that? So this specialist says the average clinician is making a lot of mistakes that they are unaware of. So they studied diagnostic errors and malpractice claims, and I just say, well, clinicians don't know anything about magnesium deficiency, so they miss that diagnosis every time. And I say, just as medicine has given up trying to fix medical errors, they have given up trying to train doctors to be better diagnosticians. They're turning to artificial intelligence instead of relying on doctors' superficial intelligence. I thought that was a great line. So on and on, I just continue to bang my head against a brick wall, hoping that some people get the message. And I go back now to Ginny so she can have the last couple of minutes to tell us about the conference that some of her team went to this weekend, or what was it? Flow Fest.
It was, we have the National Whitewater Center out here, and it was a great event called Flow Fest. It was a physical fitness sports activity, kind of yoga demonstration thing going on. He had a couple 10,000 people rolling out there. And we just realized one day that, we're known around the world, but we're not necessarily really known here locally, even though we're, we thought, well, let's break out into the community and do something fun. So we took our Remag and our Remag lotion and went out and hung out with some people and pumped out some samples and let them spin the wheel to see if they could win a coupon code and things like that. And I think it was really amazing. And once again, a lot of people do not know how beneficial the products are and that they're here locally. So we made a lot of new friends. It was really awesome. And very grateful for the opportunity to do that. The staff all participated. Everybody was there. So it was really, I think it was really a fun day.
Excellent. Excellent. And I'm sure, here we are in North Carolina, I'm sure people appreciated having a little bit of a party after the horrible hurricane you all went through.
Yes, it's been, I mean, everybody's still reeling. I mean, there's definitely trying to get the recovery. The streets are covered with dead fish, dead animals, and all kinds of dead, crazy stuff. It's a mess. It's a mess here along the coast. But North Carolinians are hardy people, and, you know, people have to pick themselves up and dust themselves off and keep going, and that's what they're doing. So we're contributing in our own way and doing what we can to lighten the load and inspire people to hang in there and keep doing the best thing for themselves and for their family. And so we're doing our part, too, in our own little way.
Oh, well, no, it's a big way. It really is. I mean, I think of the number of staff that you have and we work with and how they're all on the products, their families are on the products. It just flows out in a rippling tide pool. I think it's awesome.
Yeah, it's very exciting, and they had a great time. So we're doing our part and keeping everybody happy and healthy here, and we're just so excited for everything that's occurring. And we haven't talked a lot about it, but we're coming up with our RNA drops promotion next week. We're going to have a wonderful guest on our Doctor to Doctor series on the radio show. You will not want to miss that. That is going to be very informative and inspiring. So hang in there, everybody, and be back with us again next week. And if you need anything in the meantime, support at RNA Reset is the way to contact us.
Thank you very much, Ginny.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
Great show. Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Bob.
I'm calling you, Ginny, right after.
No personal messages on the show. Bob, you've been bad.
Email me, Ginny. Email me.
Bad boy, bad.
You've been listening to Live with Dr. Carolyn Dean here on AchieveRadio.com. Till next time, so long, and thanks for all the fish.
AchieveRadio.com.
When it's much more simple than that. You have a physical body. Your physical breathing, blood pumping, mucus creating physicality that has access to non-physical. And everyone has that inside them. That's how the coroner